I recently finished This Woven Kingdom and I can't wait to give my review. Hi, I'm Lacey, I love to read. Thanks for coming to my channel. I recently read This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi and I really liked it. I have now ventured into more than just ACOTAR as fantasy, and I honestly had a lot of fun reading it, and I just am so excited to finally give a book review. I haven't really done a book review specific for like one book on my channel, but I just had such a fun time reading and I just want to talk about it, so here we are. I read the physical copy but also an audiobook, and I partnered with Everand to give an affiliate link so that you can get 30 days free. So Everand is a subscription service where you can get all your digital reading necessities. So you can get ebooks, you can get audiobooks, you can get podcasts, and there's over 1 million titles on this platform. So the second I finish This Woven Kingdom, I don't have the physical book for either of the second and the third book, so I could immediately download the second book in the series, which is so amazing to have that right at your fingertips. And there's 2 different levels, so you can get the standard subscription, which is $11.99, or you can get the premium subscription, which is $16.99, and that is where you can either get 1 unlock a month or 3 unlocks a month. If you're interested, the link is in my bio. I had to do audiobook and the physical book because I just was in kind of a rough reading slump. I only read 5 books in August, and that was quite a journey. And this was the first book I finished in September, and it's already the second week of September. So I knew in order to finish it, I needed to get that audiobook, and I'm glad I did because I ended up finishing it finally, and I rated it 4.5 stars. So this book is 495 pages. Like I said, 4.5 stars. And it is a fantasy book that's inspired by Persian mythology, but it is honestly such an interesting read. Although it took me a while to read, it had nothing to do with the book itself. It was more of a personal thing. Honestly, the chapters were kind of long, so if I didn't have a lot of time to read, I just wouldn't pick it up because I wanted to be immersed in it, and I didn't get to be if I only had like 10-15 minutes. Just to give a little overview of this book follows Eliza and Cameron, and Eliza is a long-lost heir to the Jinn kingdom. And so in this book, there are 2 types of people. There are Jinn and there are humans, which they call clay. And Jinn are people made of fire. And so there is a lot of turmoil and war between the Jinn and the clay. And the clay people ended up winning this war. And they signed the accords to end the war and to kind of live amongst each other. And so this book is set in Ardunia, which is where King Zal and Prince Cameron are residing over. So Lisa is a servant and she's trying not to be uncovered. So she has these beautiful eyes that change color, and that kind of indicates her heritage as being the heir to the Jinn kingdom. However, as time goes on, all of the people who know who she is kind of die off, and so she's left to conceal herself and protect herself by being uncovered. And so she's always hiding her identity. She wears a snuda to cover her eyes so that no one can tell who she is, and she lives as a servant in the Baz house. And the Baz house is ran by a niece of the king. So she's there, she's trying to be uncovered. She's also working as a seamstress to make money, and she's living in the attic of the Baz house because she's not shown and proven herself to live in their servants' quarters. So that's where it starts. It's very interesting to kind of see her hidden and to uncover more about what happened in this Jinn kingdom and what led to where they are now. And so Cameron comes back, and he is essentially a soldier, and he comes back and kind of gets himself into trouble. So he intervenes when a street child attacks Eliza, and she ends up hurting him far worse than he could have hurt her. And something about that interaction just sparks something in Cameron, and he can't let it go. So he ends up saving this street child because he's badly injured from Eliza defending herself, and he kind of ends up falling into Eliza's world and vice versa. It is such a beautifully written book. I think that there was some elements that definitely by the end I was like, where did that come from? But also I don't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't always know what is typical of a fantasy book and what isn't. But I will say the story of Eliza and Cameron and their connections to each other and how they are constantly kind of like seeing each other and interacting and finding a reason to be around each other is very interesting. It's not super romance heavy until I would say about like the 70% mark. It's very much you learning a lot about Eliza and learning about Cameron and kind of their roles in their respective kingdoms, even though Eliza doesn't have much of a kingdom to go back to. But I found it really interesting. It was really engaging to read their stories and to kind of go back and forth. Each chapter kind of flip-flops which person they're talking about, and I will say I loved Eliza's chapters better than Cameron's. But it did help it flow by going back and forth. There was just some cliffhangers like at the end of some of their chapters that I was like, oh, I wish I had another chapter of that same person, but I totally understand why it's formatted like that. It actually went over a span of only about a week because it was from when Eliza had that interaction with the street child and when Cameron came back, and within a week he had a ball, and that ball is where a lot of things happened as well. And so overall, I think it was a really great first book in a series. I think that it left a lot to be answered, which I just started the audiobook and I feel like a lot of my questions are already answered for the second book already, which is really great. I'm really intrigued to see where it goes from here. I definitely will be reading and listening to the next 2 books on Everand, and I'm really excited to get to them and keep going. But overall, this book was really interesting. I definitely recommend going into this series. I think that if you're looking for, honestly, if you're a historical fiction lover, which I know a lot of people on this channel subscribe to me are, myself included, I think it was a really good historical fiction kind of feel to the beginning of it, and then kind of the fantasy elements did take over, but I did really enjoy that historical fiction aspect. And I was talking to my coworkers about it all week at work, and they all kind of were like, okay, don't tell me anymore because I want to read it. So I definitely think if you're looking for a fantasy read that has kind of an enemies to lovers subplot, kind of forbidden love. Oh, and one comparison I have, I'm kind of all scatterbrained. I don't do a lot of book reviews because I just kind of spew all my thoughts, but I had some little Ella Enchanted moments where I was like, this kind of reminds me of this book. And I just thought it was really a great read and a great start to this trilogy. Thank you for coming to my first book review. I hope you liked it. Hopefully it's not too scatterbrained for you, but that's kind of how I work, so it is what it is. But I really appreciate you being here and watching my videos, and I hope that the books that you read bring you joy.